Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Horror Mine. My name is Vic Shy, and this is the Scare Score, where I break down horror movies and rate them on how scary I think they are. In this episode, I'll be going over the 2009 Indonesian slasher horror film, Macabre. The film is directed by Timo Tjahjanto and Kimo Stambul, the duo known as the Mo Brothers. I'll be going over the events that take place throughout the film, while breaking down the scares and rating them on how scary they are or attempt to be. It's been a long time since I've covered a straight up slasher film, and this is a crazy bloody one. I'm gonna have my hands full trying to edit this, but how scary is it? Sit back and relax and join me as we explore Macabre and tally up the Scare Score. Our movie begins with a grainy black and white home video with an unsettling atmosphere. I can't quite describe it, but the piano tune playing in the background just doesn't feel right. We get introduced to our main character, Ladia, and her cool neck tattoo. We then meet the rest of the characters, her brother Aji, his pregnant wife Astrid, and their three friends, Jimmy, Echo, and Alam. Their parents recently passed away in a tragic accident that Ladia blames him for. Aji accepted a job offer in Australia and will be moving there with his new family. This is pretty much all the backstory we get for these characters before they are thrown into the main plot. We get a cool cameo from Indonesian director Joko Anwar, who's directed some amazing horror films such as the Satan Slaves remake and Empedagore. Some guys start flirting with Ladia, and Alam, who clearly has a crush on her, comes to her rescue. The group head to Jakarta to drop Aji and Astrid off at the airport. It starts to rain and they encounter a woman who says she's just been robbed. Against horror movie rule number 69, they give the woman named Maya a ride to her home located in the middle of nowhere. She lures them inside by saying she just wants to introduce them to her mother. We are introduced to her mother Dara, who gives off a very unsettling feel. She automatically takes an interest in the pregnant Astrid and insists that the group stay for dinner. Ladia has a weird feeling about the entire situation and goes out for a smoke. She sees a man dragging large trash bags followed by another man who eerily stares at her. We see some really old photos of Dara before Jimmy tries scaring Ladia via fake out jump scare. Alam starts playing with a katana he found, and we are introduced to Maya's strange brother Adam. Both he and Dara give off some strong Norman and Norma Bates vibes. Actor Arifin Putra does a good job playing the creepy Adam and also gave a really strong performance as Uko in The Raid 2. Dara gets a feel of Astrid's belly and gives her an unknown drink that she should know better than to consume. But this is a horror movie, and making wise choices is a really foreign concept. As we'll come to see, Astrid is an expert at making terrible decisions. Aji and Astrid decide to skip out on dinner and go rest upstairs. At dinner, we meet the last member of the family, a large non-vocal man named Arman. Ah yes, a large non-vocal member of a weird and creepy family. I'm sure he's a real outstanding guy, especially with those serial killer specs. It's not until he showed up that I realized he, Adam, and Maya are the children from the home video in the film's intro. They have a toast over red wine and have a dinner that's about as awkward as you'd think. Dara looks around at her guests and has a really menacing stare. Ladia asks her about the necklace she's wearing, which is an heirloom that has been passed down for many generations. Echo has an obvious thing for Maya, and she suggests that he should spend the night. Adam gives Ladia a piece of meat that would definitely make Hannibal Lecter go ugh. Echo tries getting his mojo on with Maya, but ends up falling asleep with his pants wrapped around his ankles. The rest of the group falls asleep at the dinner table, and this is where the craziness begins. Maya walks up to Alam, and he wakes up sooner than expected. She has a platform truck behind her. I had to look that one up, as she was planning on bringing him to where the others are. She tries seducing him to get her way, which seems to be her signature move. She doesn't know, however, that Alam ain't no simp, unless your name is Ladia. He tries calling his friends, and she slowly walks up behind him out of focus. Maya herself isn't really menacing, but the shot of her walking up has some really nice tension. Since her special attack missed on him, she starts cutting him with a small knife. He tries to get away and finds the front doors have been sealed shut. He sneaks up behind her and they start struggling for the knife. She's got that crazy in her that still would have had me.
We're talking about this!
Thankfully, Alam manages to stay strong for the rest of us. Just as he is about to finish her, Adam saves her and puts him in a world of hurt. He gives Alam back the knife because who needs weapons when you're on that Paulo Costa secret juice? Aji and Astrid show up before Adam punches a literal hole through Alam's arm. It's a little over the top, but our first indicator that the family aren't just normal humans. They take off running and Aji gets his ankle readjusted by Adam. Astrid locks herself in the room and does a good job pushing the wardrobe in front of the door. This is the first and only compliment she'll get from me because from here on out, her decision making goes out the window. She places her face up to the door not knowing Adam is still on the other side.
Aji!
We hear metal scraping on the other side of the door before a knife appears straight through her hand. This was a great start to the madness that doesn't end until the credits roll. Yes, the family are the cliche psychopaths that we've seen numerous times, but their presentation and the way some scenes are shot add to their intensity, specifically Maya walking up to Alam and the shot of Adam and Astrid with their faces up to the door. The rest of the group wake up tied in a basement and Echo has the least amount of clothes on, though that was a personal choice. Ladia makes her way to the door and looks through a small hole. Alam is tied down to a metal table and Armand shows up, clearly inspired by Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Armand revs up the chainsaw and makes it more practical for Alam to cosplay as the Headless Horseman for Halloween. Again, a very typical scene for a slasher film that clearly draws a lot of inspiration from previous ones. Its presentation is what makes it so much more effective. I love the shot of Ladia witnessing it all through the small hole. The way Jimmy and Echo react is also well done because they react solely to what they hear and fill in the blanks of the horrors happening just outside. Leatherface starts to cut some Alam steaks and places them into an icebox. The rest of his remains go into a black trash bag just like the ones Armand was dragging earlier, giving a much more sinister context to that scene. Aji is tied to a chair in the hall and Astrid says perhaps the most cliche slasher horror movie line ever, "Why are you doing this?" Dara shows up and the moment she turned her head I knew that Hairpin was going to be stuck inside something other than hair, Aji's shoulders specifically. The sadistic look on her face is that of absolute pleasure. Armand cleans up his workplace and Alam's blood spills over into the room where we see several more trash bags. Armand grabs Ladia and slams her onto the metal table. Jimmy and Echo try to divert his attention by making fun of his weight. This clearly strikes a nerve and gives Ladia just enough time to slip her hand out of the rope. Instead of doing what he's supposed to do for his mom, Armand gives in to the voices in his head and his sexual desires. This gives Ladia a chance to escape and knock him out cold. She doesn't perform a Mortal Kombat fatality on him, but don't worry, there's plenty of those on the way. Astrid sees a car roll up outside and starts yelling for help. Unfortunately, Edna Mode isn't here to help, she's making a purchase. She looks at a book full of previous victims and they load her car with ice boxes. The family has been selling body parts to them for a very long time. It's never revealed who they are, but it's hinted to be some type of rich satanic cult. The drink Astrid consumed earlier goes into effect and she gives birth while Dara oddly gives her words of encouragement. She gives birth to a cute little baby as Aji struggles and calls out to her. Dara stands over him and watches him struggle in a tragic and disturbing moment. Ladia, Jimmy, and Echo manage to escape the house but go back to try and rescue Aji and Astrid. Maya starts shooting at them with a crossbow, but thankfully, she put more points into seduction than archery. They take off running into the woods and Dara, who has questionably better aim, shoots Ladia in the back. It starts to pour and Jimmy plays "Let's reveal our location" by screaming out to Ladia. She calls back out to him and we hear someone whispering her name among the trees. Echo breaks down crying and is probably the worst character of the entire movie. He does nothing but try and have sex and cry the entire film. Jimmy isn't that much better, but isn't as annoying as Echo. A knife through the back should help with his characterization. Jimmy tries to save Ladia, which leads to his demise. Ladia takes off running and Adam goes after Echo. He runs out into the street and a car approaches him before it cuts to black. This was a good scene with a decent amount of tension. It leans more on the actiony side with the crossbows and neck snaps, but the Mo brothers are also known for directing action movies. Back in the house, we get one of the most mind-boggling horror movie choices I've seen in a while. Astrid leaves the safety of the room to check on Aji, allowing Dara to casually walk inside and take her baby. She then cries out, "Not my baby!" as if Dara is just gonna hand it to her. She's just been through hell all while giving birth, so I won't rip on her too bad, but come on. Dara then offers her a choice. Walk out alive now with Aji or go after the baby and risk certain death. At this point, I question the validity of that offer and don't really expect Astrid to make a rational decision. She goes after the baby on her own, which turns out to be an express pass to the afterlife. Aji goes looking for her and walks into a room full of very small bones. Astrid walks out with an accessory she didn't have before, Dara's hairpin in her neck. As she lays bloodied in his arms, she whispers her final words that their baby is a boy, one of the saddest gender reveal parties I've ever seen. Aji now has only one thing on his mind: revenge. He tackles and starts punching Dara, but it's clear that the entire family is genetically enhanced because his punches have zero effect. Armand grabs a hold of Ladia and Dara starts choking Aji before he is saved by a plot convenience. The car that rolled up on Echo earlier turns out to be a squad of police officers. The leader Siarif introduces himself and questions Dara about Echo. She and Maya come up with a completely bogus story that he doesn't quite buy into. One of the officers named Sunny tries flirting with Maya, but she isn't having it. We get a pretty neat visual of Dara standing in front of her wall mount, which makes it look like the horns are coming out of her head. The police take a quick look around the house and determine that everything is fine. Officer Petrus brings Echo back inside with the help of a prisoner. Sunny sees a map on the wall with several markers, possibly marking the locations of all their customers. He then plays a disturbing video of the children being taught the family business at a young age. There's something about old grainy video footage that I've always found unnerving. We then briefly see this odd symbol that gives us a hint into the family's beliefs. I did some research and couldn't find its exact meaning, but it appears to be the square and compass, commonly associated with the Freemasons, surrounded by the Ouroboros. What this means for the film isn't revealed, but it's possibly the symbol of their cult who are trying to achieve eternal life. Sunny doesn't question the disturbing footage he just saw, as if he just stumbled upon something completely normal. He also finds old photos of the family dating back to 1917 and one of Dara from 1889. Armand's sexual urges once again get him hurt and ruin things for the rest of his family. Dara's had this odd, emotionless expression throughout the film, but here it definitely looks like, oh shit. Officer Tawfiq goes to check it out, which gets him killed, but he manages to take Armand along with him. Realizing that the jig is up, Adam grabs a sickle and shuts off the lights.
Pak Polisi.
Sunny is still absolutely clueless, which earns him a knife to the stomach. Adam turns into a ninja and deals the finishing blow on Officer Tawfiq. Petrus accidentally shoots at Sunny before Adam absolutely obliterates him with the sickle. Just when he is about to do the same to the prisoner, Siarif shoots him and he retreats. The lights come back on and Dara tests the sharpness of her heels on the prisoner's face. Siarif and Sunny retreat to the car, but Maya jumps on Sunny's back and goes absolutely berserk. Siarif takes out a rifle and deletes Maya, which enrages Dara. He aims in her direction but literally misses every single shot, which is always so infuriating to see. She then deletes him using the buttstock of his own weapon and puts an end to her daughter's suffering. This was a really chaotic scene that really highlights how incompetent horror movie cops are. We got a bunch of brutal deletions, but there wasn't anything scary. Claudia finds her brother, who has been holding his newborn son the whole time. He becomes enraged and starts smashing some jars filled with unborn babies. Dara is also furious and tells Adam to finish them off. Adam appears behind Ladia and only slaps her because she's got that final girl plot armor. Aji breaks a jar on his head and the fight is on. Adam suddenly isn't as strong as in the beginning when he punched a literal hole through someone's arm. If that were the case, Ladia and Aji would already be dead and the film would be 15 minutes shorter. Right as he is about to finish off Aji, Echo runs in and saves the day using the katana from earlier, which redeems him as the film's worst character because he chose friendship when he could have easily run off again. Ladia pulls out the lighter given to her by Alam and lights Adam on fire. It isn't enough to get rid of him and he throws Echo down the stairs. He gets into a tussle with Aji before Ladia sticks Dara's hairpin in a place it should never go. Aji grabs him from behind and the two are successfully able to make his head and his body go there. This scene has a ton of blood, but it's pretty heavy on the action and not scary. The makeup on the burned Atom looks super gnarly though, and Wolverine would definitely have a hard time eating with him. Echo finds himself alone downstairs and does more of his trademark screaming and crying. He totally bypasses that gun on the floor and hears a chainsaw noise directly behind him. Echo's screams of agony are heard from a distance, and Ladia arms herself with a sword. Echo's body has been turned into stew, and his head is now a bloody bowling ball with facial hair. Dara runs up on Ladia with the chainsaw, and here we go. She looked very creepy before, but now that her children are dead and she's enraged, she looks downright terrifying. Ladia tries getting away with a slow motion jump but gets nicked in the leg. Ladia asks why she's doing this, and Dara reveals that they want her so they can live longer, pretty much confirming that the cult consumes human flesh to prolong their lives. Ladia even had a taste of it during dinner. Aji pushes Dara away and gets a piece of the chainsaw before sliding a gun over to Ladia. She manages to get a great shot off despite wildly swinging that arm and looking away. The two get into an absolutely gritty fight where Ladia refuses to be a victim. She chokes her with her own necklace and rips it off, seemingly taking the life out of her. With his final breath, Aji tells her to watch over his son that she later names Vikshai. Just let me have this, guys. The final fight was gritty, intense, and a ton of fun. It pretty much sums up the entire film perfectly. She grabs the baby and limps her way out of the house into the police car. The station radios over to the car and she tries communicating with them. Anyone who's ever seen a horror film knows she's spending a little too much time there. Just enough time for Dara to pop up like an RKO out of nowhere. Her 2022 Royal Rumble return is short-lived as Ladia reverses the car and rams Dara right into a tree. The baby is totally unbothered during all this and will definitely grow up to be a total badass. In the film's final scene, Ladia drives off with the baby. We then see Dara's hand slightly move as the movie ends. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Macabre. My friends, this was a straightforward, very bloody, and fun slasher film. It's got some interesting characters, especially the sadistic family. It takes clear inspiration from previous slashers, mainly the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I don't think it does quite enough to stand apart from the crowd. The standout of the film is by far Dara, portrayed by actress Sharifa Danish, who even has a short film that this movie was based on. She's an absolutely creepy and unsettling character and the most memorable part of the film. Everything else is pretty standard and nothing horror fans haven't seen before. It's got plenty of kills and a decent amount of action. Aside from a few well-shot and intense scenes, this film doesn't offer too much in terms of scares. Not a knock on the film because it's all enjoyable, but not enough to earn any solid scare points. Those who can't really handle blood or gory scenes may find this a lot scarier than I did, earning Macabre a low scare score of 38%. The scariest scene in the film is Alam's death. It's the first kill of the film and packs the heaviest punch. What makes it scarier is seeing Ladia's reaction as she witnesses the horrific event. Seeing the light shine on her eye was a great shot and an oddly beautiful one. But as always, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you all for tuning in, and I cannot wait to see y'all right back here in the horror mine. Y'all stick around.